This week, the NASCAR Cup Series and the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series will be racing at the famed Bristol Motor Speedway. But unlike most of Bristol's popular time in NASCAR, instead of the concrete surface, the cars and trucks will be racing on the clay dirt surface for the second season in a row. And while some, like myself, did enjoy it, there were others who were just not that fond of it. While garnering an increased TV viewership and in-person viewing, it was also at the price of a fan-favorite track, changing so much that it basically lost a date. And last season in particular wasn't a good argument for NASCAR fans in having dirt racing here. On top of a controversial Bristol dirt race, the dirt truck race at Knoxville was a wreckfest disaster, to say the least. And it already was on thin ice for many, as it had been viewed, at least, as stealing a date off the schedule from the more popular dirt race at Eldora. But it has gotten a new and old debate started again among NASCAR fans and competitors alike. Should NASCAR race on dirt tracks? It's an odd and lengthy argument for some, but it's pretty interesting to see the shift in public perception over time, as at one point it was seemingly pretty obvious to most that it was yes. The big guns on this are ones from Richard Petty and Kyle Busch. Richard Petty, who asserted that the racing on dirt was, quote, not professional, and that NASCAR is going backwards. He also compared it to a pro football team playing on a high school football field. This is something that has been echoed recently by a current driver in Kyle Busch. With this, others have really jumped on the anti-dirt train at this point. Others on this side have argued that NASCAR is a primarily or completely asphalt and paved racing series. Like with Petty's argument, this really hedges on the modern view of NASCAR racing. While dirt racing was in the history of NASCAR, people who argue this say that since they've moved on, they should not go back at any cost. Others see the aforementioned dirt disasters of the past. Last year's race at Knoxville, for instance, was a twofold disaster. The first half of the race was a single-grooved, boring one. And then it would suck as well, if not more, for the fact that it all went to hell in a handbasket to close out the night with a complete and insane wreckfest. After an insanely slow burn, nearly every truck in the field managed to destroy one another. While some may have liked it, the showing was generally seen as a joke by NASCAR fans and die-hard dirt racing fans alike. And then you have the inaugural Bristol Dirt Races of 2021. Let's start with and stay in the truck series. After a good day of practices, the Tennessee rains washed in to rain on everyone's dirty parade. Wow, that sounded really bad. But not as bad as what happened next. Thinking that they had pretty much sufficiently dried the racetrack, NASCAR sent the trucks back out for their qualifying heats. Instead of an action-packed cutthroat qualifier, it was a mud bath. Any truck that trailed another would be coated in mud on their grills, windshields, and any other part of the truck that basically touched air at that moment. Plus, when it does rain, it basically cancels all on-track activity for at least that day or part of the day. And with this race in particular, having it replace a traditional Bristol race, this was not going to make it universally loved as an event as well. Instead, it has been a divisive subject like many others for NASCAR fans, and has put dirt racing in a bad spot for a large amount of the fan base. Now, while this is much of the negative thoughts given on dirt racing from NASCAR fans, that's only one side of the issue. There are those who have a pro-dirt racing and NASCAR approach as well. While there are a contingent of fans against Bristol Dirt, there is no denial that it generated interest. Even with COVID protocols and a rainout, the stands looked better than they did in 2019 for the race, and it was more watched on a Monday in 2021 than it was on a Sunday in 2019. Even with it being on Fox compared to FS1, that is actually an impressive stat. By that alone, there has to be some kind of major draw to this type of racing, especially since dirt racing isn't completely new, even by modern NASCAR standards, but more on that in a bit. The racing, when the track has been dried up, was competitive and gave opportunities to less competitive teams to run up front. And by theory, this would also promote driver talent and adaptability, similar to that in short track racing, which NASCAR fans love. Outside of the Cup Series and the Truck Series, dirt racing's been around for a decade, and this of course started with racing at Eldora. In 2013, Eldora held the first Mud Summer Classic, and with the underdog of Norm Benning making a huge charge in the last qualifier race, it really cemented itself as a fan favorite. And in the years since then, the Tony Stewart ran track has been a showing of great racing, packed grandstands, and tons of drivers and eyes to the Truck Series that wouldn't have been there otherwise. And while interest in the race went down with the falling interest of NASCAR in general, it still was a fan favorite for the supporting series. It shows to many that when done right, NASCAR can have a very good popular dirt racing product. So with both these sides brought forward, what do I think? Should NASCAR race on dirt? In my humble opinion, yes, I think they should. I don't understand the argument that it sets the sport back in time in a bad way. I think that this instead is a very odd and short-sighted mentality that many NASCAR fans have. That is one of superiority over dirt racing. And don't get me wrong, the notion that NASCAR is a more pure form of racing is something fans have had for a long time. And this goes both ways when it comes to dirt racing, as I've had plenty of interactions with dirt racing fans where they have a very deep dislike of NASCAR and look down on it. While drivers may be uncomfortable though, that's what we want to see as fans. The best stock car drivers on earth being challenged every week. I also love the increased schedule diversity. Since the time I started watching NASCAR in 2005, much of the time has been spent on what fans would call cookie-cutter tracks. And while some are great or at least good, it can be dreadfully dull looking at the same or nearly the same kind of races nearly on identical tracks. So, on the merit of competitive and racing diversity alone, dirt, in my opinion, works in NASCAR. And if for nothing else, NASCAR has to change things up to be able to right the ship. Branching out to another fervent racing fan base is not the worst way to do this, in my opinion. I would think that racing fans, even if there's friction, would be more palatable than just normal, quote-unquote, casual racing fans. In my opinion, this was a much better experiment than what Atlanta has been butchered into with the Superspeedway. So yeah, dirt racing may not be the most orthodox form of NASCAR racing, but I think it does have a place here. But those are just my thoughts. Now I want to hear yours. So let me know down in the comments below. Should dirt racing be in NASCAR or not? While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content like this. So until next time, have a good one.